All set. I'm going to call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance.
States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to welcome everybody and we'll do audience introductions.
Jason Long, middle school principal, curriculum coordinator for the district. Always on.
Okay, and everybody's here. So you were on Zoom last time, Tara. So everybody's here and welcome. And adjustments to the agenda. We do have adjustments. Could I have a motion, please? And a second, Dawn. Comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? That's okay. I think that's everyone. Thank you. We haven't voted. I don't remember it's been a while. All right. Consideration of the minutes of the June 27th, 2023 board meeting. Could I have a motion, please? And a second. Comments, questions, revisions. Seeing none, all those in favor? Those, what do we call it? Opposed? And then we call it not voting. Okay, you got that, Kath? Too, I think. They weren't there. Yeah, so, all right. The minutes of the August 8th, 2023 school specials board meeting. Could I have a motion, please? And a second. Comments, questions, revisions. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Non-voting? 2 non-voting, 3 non-voting. Okay, that's all right. All right, this is the time the public can make a comment. Is anybody online for comments? Okay, all right, communications.
So we've had quite a few because it's been summer, obviously, so I'll get you all caught up. RSU56 did receive communication of approval from the Small Public Water System Emerging Contaminant Grant Program. That's a mouthful. Kenny had submitted a $60,000 grant to update the water system at Darrigo Elementary School to ensure PFAS are not an issue. So that has been granted to us and he'll be working on that. RSU56 also received an approval notification from Stronger Connections Grant. I submitted and had a grant approved for $250,000, which will cover the cost of an SRO for 3 years. So I have started the process of working with Oxford County Sheriff's Department to get that happening. RSU56 received notification from the Office of Special Services and Inclusion Division of the Maine Department of Education indicating that RSU56 meets requirements in implementing the Individuals with Disabilities Act, IDEA, which is great. Thank you, Heidi, for getting that done and getting us a good commendations from them and not having to do a lot of more fixing of that. We also just received this afternoon a notification from the Maine Department of Education Child Nutrition Office concerning the Summer Food Service Program Administrative Review. There were no findings, aka deficits, and the commendations read, and I felt like I needed to read this because I think it sums up our nutrition department very well. Gina Clucci ran a wonderful summer program at RSU56. Also operating using our non-congregate waiver, Gina kept wonderful records showing clear accountability. Thank you for your service to the children in your area. They're fortunate to have this service available to them. And I personally would like to add my public thank you to Gina and the nutrition department for all their work through the summer. And that ends my communications.
How much was DES water contaminant?
60,000.
Okay. And what you will tell us, you're going through the process for an SRO, and then how you'll tell us
Sure.
later communication, how that works.
If you
And what
like
our
to, I
role
can.
is. Yeah,
Would you like more information right now?
yeah,
Okay.
I had
yeah.
a different question.
Yep. So SRO is a school resource officer. It's something that I have spoken to the chief of police when we had a Dixfield police station, and I've since spoken with the deputy, the sheriff of the Oxford County Sheriff's Department, and they all were like, it would be great to have an SRO. So this grant opportunity came up, and I thought, well, it's about communities, so I will see if we get an SRO through this. So in the grant, we were just asking for an SRO they would be predominantly at the high school, but they would spend a part of each week at the elementary school and the middle school to make relationships with students, really looking at helping support the reduction of truancy and chronic absenteeism. That has been a huge issue. I'm sure you're aware of that across the state. Unfortunately, across the district, we are about 32%, but Darrigo High School chronic absenteeism the last couple of years since the pandemic has been around 47% of our students have chronic absenteeism. So hoping to have home visits, not something I particularly want to do on my own, knocking on someone's door. So the SRO would go and with me to houses to talk to parents if we needed to help get kids back in school as much as possible. We've also had an uptick of drug use and vandalism around our schools. So an SRO would help in that process. And I've been really clear in the application and would be clear in the hiring process that we're not looking for a pipeline from here to Long Creek. We're looking for like, how do we solve this problem internally? How do we educate students and families of the consequences of those kind of behaviors? So I definitely do. I'm not looking for somebody to arrest kids, move kids along. I'm looking for support of those issues in particular in our schools. So this SRO would be paid, like I said, 3-year grant covered, not at this point thinking we would necessarily go out and say we want an SRO in our budget after that, but it would be a good opportunity to collect data on, does this make an impact? And if it does, then I would be looking at like, what might I trade off to have this SRO, like if it's helpful to the district in particular. But I didn't see a way that we were going to have it to collect data without going through a grant process. So hence the grant. Kind of threw it in pretty quickly, but I did a whole bunch of things around safety because if, God forbid, we had an incident at any of our schools, we do not have a police station in any of our 4 towns. So response time would be impacted by that. So just a lot of the safety reasons that I was able to put into this community grant, and we got the notice that they were willing to fund it.
Go ahead, Brad.
Is this thing working? Okay, yeah. What's the pay for this position? Has that been decided?
No, I would be working through the Oxford County Sheriff Department. It would depend on person's, level of experience and years on the staff and all of that.
Is it an armed officer?
I would believe that it will be because they have to go through the academy in order to be a school resource officer, and they have to work through a police station. So
I'd like to see an armed
Yes, that it
officer.
would
I
be
think
an
there's
armed
value in
officer.
that, especially, we don't want anything to happen, but if something did happen, having an unarmed police officer makes no sense. I'm good on that. Then I have some question about the lunch program.
Go ahead.
Okay. The summer lunch program, how many students did we consistently serve?
Gina, I'm not sure that you heard that question, and we can wait and you can do a presentation on it if it's easier. But Brad's question was around how many students we consistently serve during the summer lunch program.
I can wait. The answer is just curious.
It's okay. She's not logged in to talk. Okay, we'll get that answer for you, Brad.
All right. All right. That's communication, new business. I'm going to let you take this over. Oh, what? Sorry, Larry, I missed you.
I went to the town meeting, I think it was last Monday. And I addressed the issue of Severy Hill as a citizen of Sudbury Hill, and I made the disclaimer that I'm not speaking for the board. I spoke as a citizen and a board member. And I mentioned to them that I had a very, very grave concern about the school buses going up on Sudbury Hill. And the reason I brought it up is that it's a disaster. I'm having a hard time driving up there with a four-wheel drive. There's other people driving. The minimum distance that they need to drive a school bus up on Sudbury Hill is 12 feet. At mile marker or survey marker 9+50, there's 12 feet and ditches on both sides. So I did bring it up. There are 5 students, 2 on Sudbury Hill, 2 on Rollins Ridge, and 1 on Valley Road. And I brought up my concern about the school buses going up there. Now I found out after the fact of going to the meeting, the school buses are refusing to go up there. Now that I don't have a problem with that. They're actually bringing, parents are bringing them down to the school bus. That's not right. My gut feeling is, and there was a statement made, and I'm going to paraphrase it, that, well, the school district is going to have to work it out. No, I was very adamant about no, it feels like they're holding Sudbury Hills hostage for the school boards, the school district. It's not our job. So I'm very concerned. I brought it up, and he said he was going to get a hold of you, Pam. Has he got a hold of you?
He being someone from the town.
The president of the school board or the selectmen's.
I have not had contact with the town over.
And that's
Sudbury
what I
Hill at
wanted
this
to know,
point.
because he said he was going to get a hold of you. When does school start again?
Our buses will start next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. So I will be having a conversation with them because this is not right. And so I thought I'd bring that up in news business, that I did take concern, that I'm putting it out there that I wasn't happy, and nothing's being done up there, and they're holding basically the school board hostage, saying that, oh, well, we can send a smaller bus up. Well, no, they don't dictate that. So I just want to make sure that they get in touch with you, and I'm going to make sure that I touch bases with them. Thank you.
Go, all right. PM, then Liz. Then I'll have her in, then go
I had a
ahead.
text message answer for Brad. So Gina says they average 40 lunches a day and 20 breakfasts, also with 30 to 36 meals going out for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with a waiver to feed them over the weekend.
Okay,
I
Let's-
talked with Terry Cox a few days ago. She told me that there were only 3 students now because one was going to Jay, and that Kenny had that under control. So, I mean, other than that, that's all I know.
Tina,
I just had a quick question, because a lot of other school districts, when a child lives up on a hard to reach road, the parent is responsible to bring them down to the end of the road, and that's not uncommon in other school districts.
all right. Any others? All right. New business.
It's just because the newspaper person says they can't find the Zoom link, so I'm trying to get that to her, but I will continue with this and then I'll get it to her. Okay, thank you. So new business is a motion to elect a board chair. Could I have a motion? Well, we need to know who that would be.
I would like to nominate Barbara Chow for the board chairmanship.
Second.
So we have a first and a second. Do we have other nominations? Any further conversations around this? Okay, we'll do all in favor. Motion moves. And I will turn it back over to my chair.
Thank you. And please call me or email me. I always try to answer questions or anything. even if the phone goes off. I try. The next thing is to elect a vice chair. Do we have any nominations, Liz? We have Natalie,
Like to nominate Carl.
excuse me, I didn't hear.
Carl.
Carl, any other nominations? We have Carl and Natalie. Do we want nominations to cease?
Can I ask a question?
Cool, yes.
What exactly is the job of vice?
The vice chair, well, like if the chair's not here, they would run the meeting, but they also are involved in a lot of the information, you know, like the agenda and things. They are closely work with the chair and the superintendent. Any other questions?
Nominations to cease,
Thank
please.
you. Okay, so what I'll do is, since Natalie was first, then I'll do Carl. All those for, oh, seconds. Do I need seconds for both of you? I thought somebody seconded Carl. Nope.
I'll second Carl.
All right, second for Natalie. No, he did. He did Carl. I'll second Natalie. All right, so they've been they've been nominated and is that a word? Seconded? No. I always make up my words. Okay. All right. All those for Natalie, raise your hand. Keep them up. Okay, all those for Carl? Carl, you got it. I was waiting. Okay. Thank you, Carl. Okay. In your packet, I think there was a list of course, Barbara hides everything, of the current committees and the people currently on them. I did have Kathleen, and most of the time, what we do is you guys let me know and we go through them to see. You can see we have a lot of openings. Kathleen did email me about policy and curriculum. So there, we definitely really need somebody in
I have a
negotiations.
question.
Yeah.
What are the rules around how many people can serve on a committee?
Usually we have 3 or 4 because not everybody ever shows up, but you know, sometime 4.
Is there a limit?
There's not a limit. You can go to the meetings, but usually we have 4 on a committee.
What if there is a quorum on the committee?
That is, it's in our policy, which I would have to look. You can't do a quorum, but we have board members who come to listen.
Yep.
They don't vote, but they can be there. So it is, we do really need finance. Finance is signing the warrants and we try to get someone from each town. So right now we have Dawn and Carl. So that's coming in at different times and Mary, you know, work out a schedule with Mary to go over the warrants.
Don loves to sign warrants.
I know he does.
I was wondering maybe does everyone know what the roles of all the committees are? Because it might,
We could do better with that. Why don't
it
we
might be good
start-
if we just go through them and
each
just say like
one?
what
That's a good
what
idea.
roles they perform, and that way people could
Yeah.
think about which
Yes.
ones they might be interested in, and we could let you know.
And
after.
let me
We don't have
know,
to
but
go
if
all
you
tonight,
know,
but-
if you've come knowing what you're interested in, oh yeah,
That's-
because,
Oh,
because.
no. We are
Oh.
finance. Finance.
But
These are numbers.
finance, they do meet quarterly with Mary. She'll go over certain financial things besides signing warrants. Warrants are what is the documentation of what the school is spending. You usually go to the, I don't even know where you go to sign them now, conference or in the business office. Okay. And so and if you're interested right now, please let me know. You are? Okay, Liz. Oh, for finance, you raised your hand. I'm going one at a time. I got a Carthage, I've got a Canton. Anybody from Dixfield? Yeah,
Yeah, and when you don't just sign the warrant, you're supposed to like look
go
through it.
through
Like,
them.
obviously, the retirement system and the payroll is constant, but you look through and make sure you don't see anything that's a little fishy or whatever. So,
It's true, because I
Yes,
remember
yeah,
the
no.
$130
Yeah.
staple. I never
you
forget
don't just
that
sign, no, there's a
stapler.
little more to it than just signing it.
Yes, you,
I-
you do, you
yeah.
do review it. You are correct. So if anybody's interested, please let me know. Policy, like before Steve said, it's going over new policies, reviewing policies. Our book is pretty up to date.
I volunteer for that.
Oh, you do, Brad?
Yes.
Okay. And this is,
I would also.
all right. Okay. We can have, I've had 5 before.
It actually says not less than 4 or more than a quorum.
So what's a quorum? Well, a quorum isn't just our numbers, it's our, yeah,
You can have 6. You can't have
7 people, so we're all
I
set.
could do policy too.
Am I on?
You or I put you down. Brett, Larry, you're interested? Okay. 6. And it does say the chair makes the decision, but I'll look, 7 is that, correct? Okay. We don't meet as much as we used to because we are pretty up to date. What? I did put Joy. 7. All right, so we.
Take me off, put me on the finance.
Oh, I love you, Tim Kelly. There, thank you. And that can be at your leisure time in the quarterly. And just so you know, long time ago, me and Mr. Kelly sat down with the superintendent and Leslie Skibitsky, and we reviewed the whole book and changed the book because we're poor and we couldn't afford a review. So we've never paid for a review. All right. Okay, good. Buildings and grounds. I do know Liz had mentioned it before. There's Don and Larry. Anyone else? They meet with Kenny as needed, but Carl, thank you. And since we do have a building project of a bus garage. Okay. Chair, yes, that's usually what you do. Your first meeting or some meet and pick a chair. Personnel. We have 2 people. She is already on it. But I will say, which we tell the administrators, anybody on the board can interview. Meaning if they're not available, if you're available, Natalie will put it out and you can explain this now.
Yeah, so typically when there's a position that's been posted and we have candidates to interview, the administrator that's responsible for that department will email the committee and say, okay, I have an interview looking at Wednesday morning, who could be available. And then if we don't have someone from that committee, Barb is also copied on those and she does help us quite a bit. But if none of us can attend, then we'll usually just put it out to the whole group and say, can anybody do Wednesday morning? And I think it's good just to have someone from the board. I've learned a lot actually sitting in on the interviews and
Is this
it's-
anybody that's hired for the school department?
Yes, we've done teachers, we do
bus drivers,
everything.
Okay.
I have a
Oh,
question.
I don't-
Oh, Joy, go ahead, Brad.
What are the chances that we can review our interview process and potentially make some changes. I attended a number of interviews. I was on the board last time, and as Pam can remember, I was a little frustrated at seemed like a silly process, but I think it's long established. Is that something that we discuss at a regular board meeting?
I think you bring it to the
Personnel.
personnel committee. I mean, this last year, we instituted a change where we put exit interviews in place. So, and I appreciate the administrators did implement that, and we got the data back from those exit interviews. So yeah, absolutely. If you want either if you want to be on the committee, or if you want to bring it forth to the committee to kind of review, we're happy to do
I
that.
think bring it forth at this point. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there also is hiring policies too,
Yes.
which kind of coincide. And that, okay, we're doing nicely. Negotiations,
I
that
will
is,
volunteer
you were volunteer for,
negotiations.
okay. That is negotiation contracts, which Pam will get so that all board members somehow, I don't know if they're online or if you need a hard copy. I'm a hard copy girl, especially because I negotiate and I like, because contrary to belief, when they say, oh, it was digital, and then, oh, that didn't really count. If it's written down, we try to be very good with that, with our things. All right,
That would be
Any-
a really good one to try to get 4 on.
yes.
And I'll just say, because I'm
have to excuse
on the
yourselves, yeah.
negotiations committee, we have seven different collective bargaining units across the district that are on 3-year contracts. So each year, generally, there's 1, 2, 3, maybe that we're negotiating. The way the contracts, this I think is our heavy year. And there's one that I step back from and I'm not involved in because I have a family member that's part of the unit. So if we could have 3 others that could do it.
And if anybody else thinks about it, is willing, please let us know. It is time consuming, I will say that.
You got time, Liz?
Okay, curriculum, which Jason is our curriculum coordinator,
I
part-time.
volunteer,
Okay.
I also volunteer.
and I'm done volunteering.
Well, let's see,
Can you
Tina.
explain that one too?
Curriculum is, Jason, you come up, you.
He was ready.
It's the best committee. It's the committee of champions. So the curriculum committee is a mix of reviewing assessment data. The board will instruct me on things they want to see happen. It's a part-time role, but I try to do a good job with it. So for example, several years ago, there was a request to have all the benchmark standards per course over the course of the entire K-12 program to be online. That request came from the board committee. It exists now. Additionally, when we make a minor change, so we're not making a change that would require a full board vote, but we're making a decision about a supplementary resource or something like that, I'll bring it before the committee for review and conversation. Is that a fairly okay summary? Yep.
We sometimes, like he said, the board will have a thing they would like to look into or be informed of. It's a way for the board to really understand what the curriculum is and how it works and the data. And Jason's a good data person and what we're doing and things. All right, I have Tina, Kathleen, Larry, and Carl. Did I miss somebody? Oh, Brad and yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. All right. And wellness, I don't even know if they meet.
Can you explain that?
Is Natalie, dropout is Larry, but I do know, who used to go, Angela or, did Mary Ann, but that was maybe the time
What's
before.
involved in dropout and in the time commitment?
So typically we meet 4 times a year and we just look at, like, sometimes we look at our dropout data. We talk about, like, sometimes we bring dropouts in to talk about like why they left school. So just trying to make a plan to have more students graduate and fewer students drop out is basically our goal.
Is there any involvement with current students directly?
So we have had some at-risk students join, not on the committee, but come and talk to us about like what would make it's more likely that they would stay through. But typically we've gone with students who actually dropped out to come back and talk about like.
Help the committee engaging with the student body.
They have not done that to this, doesn't mean they couldn't, but
So
that's
it
not,
would it could potentially be appropriate.
it would potentially be appropriate to invite some to the meetings. Yeah.
Can we join a committee later than today?
Oh, yeah, this is just, and this
The only meetings that aren't open to the public, to everyone.
is
are
negotiations.
Every other meeting, like, they'll put out the date and you can go.
Yeah.
to every meeting if you've.
I'll
Yeah.
volunteer for that one.
I don't know what the after-school programming is.
So we have the 21st Century Grant, and typically we've had a board member sit on when we have meetings about that, because when you get that money, the plan is like, how are you going to sustain it after the money runs out or it whittles down each year? So we have a board member sit on it to help just do that future planning, to talk, how it's going, what we would need to sustain it beyond the
I
money.
would be interested in helping.
Oh. okay. And the ad hoc, I'm gonna have you come down again, Jason. You're good at describing.
So 4 years ago, I think it was, there was the creation of an ad hoc committee on civil rights. And then the idea behind that committee is so that when there are issues that come before the board that have to do with civil rights things, we have local information. So we've had a biannual student school culture survey that committee has done. There was a very formal process. I remember, Brad, you were part of the conversation creating that process to try to make sure we're inviting stakeholders from throughout the community, make sure that everyone has the opportunity to know about when they're meeting and what it is. And we've met, I think the policy that was passed in June, so we meet a minimum of 4 times. That's what we met last year. And then it culminates with a report to the board. And so part of the mission is to inform the board of the things that the civil rights teams are doing, to collect data on incidents, good or bad, that are happening in the schools, and just make sure that for those sorts of sensitive conversations that can impact policy, that we're making sure that we're collecting information at a local level to keep the conversation about our schools and our kids.
So that sums up and anybody interested, just let me know, or,
I might be. Let me
Okay.
read up a little bit more.
okay. Okay, I think that's every one of our committees. What?
I just received a text message from our tech director who said that
Oh,
if anyone would like to
God.
attend, to be on the technology committee, he'd be happy to have a board member serve on the technology committee as well.
The reason they have a technology committee is because we have to have a technology, what is it called? The lovely name?
So the plan isn't as
not a goal,
intense
but
as they used to be.
no, it's
But
not.
but we do still want to continue to talk about how technology is used and how it's used and what's the appropriate use and all of that stuff. So
It's a plan that we have to do, send to the state. And let me know if anybody is tech, interested. Somebody's done it multiple times, many years ago.
he did say Barbara used to serve on it.
I used to do all day things. It was very intense. All right, we'll let that people can email. Okay, I think that's it for the committees. And we'll get a list out. All right, thank you. All right. Number 4, motion to approve the 2023-24 DES handbook. Could I have a motion, please?
I have questions first,
Yep. You want the questions first? Okay.
however we want.
Well, we can do motion in second.
Here, I'll do a motion, and if we get a second, then we'll.
We'll do the questions. Natalie, motion second?
Quick comment.
Yep.
I did not see the elementary school handbook or the high school student handbook online.
Ooh,
I looked for
I
it.
saw
and
it.
I-
They go online after they get approved. Like I took down last year's, and once this is approved, I'll put it online.
but it should have been attached to your email.
I just went through all my attachments, and I
Ooh.
didn't see it, so I. You already know that I'm.
I don't remember finding that in my
Computer
email either.
knowledgeable.
I don't think I did. Maybe we're on a different list, Larry. Yes,
I did not get that either.
did you do that on a Mac?
I didn't see it on mine.
Oh, you.
I'm sorry. Just pulled it up here and I don't, it's not a major deal, but I just thought I'd let you know.
1, 2, Larry, 3, everybody else got it?
Can we resend it?
The high school one didn't go up, just a little.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you forward it to everybody again?
Please.
I have room in my email for that.
On the 14th. Yeah.
Which one did we just vote on? Oh, we
I got the student health, the activities and the elementary.
we're gonna have to delay that vote, I would think,
Oh,
if
hang
we didn't
on.
get it.
I stand corrected. I just found it. Never mind. I'll go back and look at it.
I did
That's
not
my
find
fault.
it.
I apologize.
Oh.
Yeah,
I
I
think
found it.
Were they all attached to the same?
My mistake, Pam. I did.
Middle school. High school. I got it. I found it. It was just how it was listed on it. I didn't see it. Sorry. We're good.
Only mistake.
Oh, wait, this is emergency. No, I had it. This says emergency plan, though. Was that part of it? Okay.
I would not be prepared to vote on those. The only thing that I got was the emergency plan and the student athlete handbook.
Were there any changes from last year?
You can figure out. Yeah.
That would be great.
The only changes were, for me, were named.
Okay.
Is it safe to say that if we disagreed with a bunch of stuff on here, it's not getting changed tonight? Unless we're gonna go into some kind of work session to try to deal with it, so.
Brad, can I ask you a favor? Step back on your mic. It's really rumbled over here.
Yeah, I think it's messed up some way.
Thank you.
Blaming you. I can talk without it.
But they can't hear it on.
Oh, hello. No, I'm just wondering, like, if even if for the folks that didn't read it tonight, and we disagreed with 5 things, it's not gonna matter. You still gotta start school, and if we read through them, are they things that can be addressed later? Or is it like done? Yeah, you can have that.
I know they referred to policy, so if policy, that would be for the policy. The procedures, if it's not in policy, it's usually, I think that would be something we could discuss because like the admin makes the procedure, but if we see an issue with a certain procedure, the rest is usually the school rules.
I don't think I'd want to hold up a vote because I didn't read the handbook.
Okay,
So
well, I think what we're gonna do, and
Living documents, though, really, right?
they are living documents, but usually something, especially like he just changed the name, so that wouldn't be, but usually if it's something for protocol or a procedure, which usually the discipline are all policies, so that wouldn't affect, that would have to change the policy to change. I don't think it would, but if we say we're doing something specifically for academics, say like whatever you say, I have read some, you've got to follow what they're given, you know what I'm saying? It would be, but I don't think any of the major things would not be able to, because policy can always be reviewed and changed. Sometimes protocol or procedures are changed because circumstances change. So what is the pleasure? And I think we're gonna make sure it's hard. I don't know how we can rectify that because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things coming. And to make sure that we read them and know them, because I used to be a hard copy girl, so and with the other, people go away from that, but we just got to make sure if we don't get, well, you wouldn't know if you didn't get it because you didn't know if it was coming. So is there somehow we can say that we've read it or that we've accepted it? You know what I mean? I know that sometimes you could look that,
When you send an email, you can put read receipt.
okay,
Right.
read the
Right.
email, not the
Right.
attachments. I think maybe put a reminder to read each attachment.
I think honestly, I think that comes down to accountability to us. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'll raise my hand and like summer and whatnot, I probably did not review these as closely as I would other times of the year. And yeah, so, but I think when we review our board agendas, if there's something that we're supposed to vote on and we have absolutely no idea what it is, it's probably up to us to reach out to you guys and say, hey, I'm supposed to vote on this, it looks like, and I don't know what I'm voting on. Please help me.
And I would say that at our special board meeting, I did announce that there would be emails coming, and then I think I sent them like August 8th or something, so that you could. And I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying, like, if you want me to do something else other than that,
No,
I can, but I just don't know
think
what else I would do.
It's hard because when you attach something, if you answer it, then the attachment goes somewhere. All right, I do have a motion and a second for the Dare Grove Elementary School Handbook. Is there any discussion over it? Any questions? And Charlie said he only changed names this time because our staff has changed. All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Not, well, I will call it not voting, yeah. Okay. All right. Next is the Darrigal Middle School Handbook. Could I get a motion, please? And a second?
Second.
Comments, questions? Jason, I know you probably don't know what you changed. Okay.
With Kathy Arsenal's help, I went through and reviewed the policies that were required to attach to the end of the document to make sure that they were all the most current version of the policies. And then I shared that with the other two building principals to make sure that those were up to date. Nothing was changed that would touch on policy. There are, minor I think that I added in a paragraph to our emergency procedures section to better explain where our cameras are and their purpose. But there wasn't a substantive change to the running of the building. It's
Okay.
the same schedule as last year.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Jason? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, unvoted, not voting? Joy, okay.
I haven't read any of them, so I don't feel like I.
Oh, that's okay. That's honesty. They're hard. It is a long thing. All right, motion to approve the 2023-24 Dirigal High School Student Handbook. Could I have a motion, please? And a second? Comments or questions?
Yeah, any changes?
So there are a couple of things, again, nothing to do with policy, but I did change the wording around open campus. So at this point, freshmen and sophomores would not have open campus. Juniors would only have open campus for lunch. Seniors would continue to have open campus for lunch and learning labs. The other change we made was around what credit recovery range is. It's always been 60 to 69. That has not changed. But we did add, and you have to complete at least half the work of the class, because sometimes they were making credit recovery when they might have only done like 2 assignments out of a bunch of them. So we wanted to get at least half of the class in before they go to credit recovery. I'm trying to think, names were changed. I did update the policies, as Mr. Long pointed out. I changed those at the end. Those are the bigger ones, I think.
Go ahead, Tina.
Okay, so it was open campus last year for even the underclassmen?
Correct.
Okay, so why the change, like what has changed that you have decided that's no longer feasible?
So the big part is where we instituted open campus because of COVID to just get students out when they had to wear masks. We left it in to help build responsibility. Last year, I got a lot of feedback from community members, board members, that they would prefer that students not have open campus. A lot of the staff at the high school felt like open campus led to our chronic absenteeism and truancy issues. So as a leadership team at the high school, we talked about it and didn't want to give it up in its entirety, but we did take it
What about
down
for those
considerably.
underclassmen that were doing what they were supposed to? It just kind of nixes it anyway. So everybody's punished for the few.
So this was a decision that was made after much feedback.
Okay.
I personally, as the principal, I will say I liked open campus. It gave me a little bit of leverage with students, because if they weren't doing what they needed to do, I could take it away. But I also understand community concerns when they see kids doing things that they shouldn't be doing during school hours. So with that feedback and with staff's feedback around, like, it would be easier to have freshmen and sophomore here to help them adjust to high school and to get used to the expectations of being where you're supposed to be all the time. That was just a collective decision. And I do not want it as punishment. I will be very clear that Dirigal High School is incredibly fortunate that more than 90% of our students are doing what they're supposed to be doing all the time in terms of behaviors. So we have a good group of students. This is not meant to be punishment. This is really in response to community and board member feedback around open campus.
What, is there a limit on, where businesses that students can visit when they are allowed off?
Once they leave our school for open campus, we do not monitor where they go for lunches or wherever, visit somebody's house or where they go. That they have to have parental permission to have open campus, even as juniors and seniors. And we do not monitor where they go when they leave the building.
I have a question.
Joey first.
Oh,
You, Brad.
I was just, thrilled, totally thrilled that they changed it back. I've got 5 grandkids that have gone through the school in the last couple of years during COVID. And even they said that was the worst decision ever, was for these underclassmen to be, it was a senior privilege and it should have stayed senior privilege because the underclassmen really ruined it. And they weren't responsible, and parents, business owners in town really didn't like seeing the kids running wherever.
Brad,
So first thing I would say, for what it matters, we did not have senior privileges for a very long time up until I graduated high school in 1994. And it was the seniors that year that, I asked for them back, and I believe we earned it. I'm not sure. It's been a long time, like 30 years or something. I would say that my opinion is that senior privileges should be senior privileges, not junior, certainly not underclassmen. We've all heard lots of stories about the behavior of the kids when it was open campus, and it was not sunshine and butterflies, and it was not the community's preference. These kids were raising hell, and they were doing drugs. Not some of it may be perception, sure, but they were doing it. They were caught doing it. There were kids having sex. There was lots of things going on. So I'm happy to see the policy changed. I would go further to say it should be only seniors. It doesn't sound like we're debating this policy tonight and saying we're going to change it. The question that I would have about it is it open for discussion that if we see the same behavior from the children today, and I would argue these children are not quite as responsible as maybe generations past, would we revisit this? And is that a board decision, or is that, Pam, is that your decision?
So this, I was gonna say, this isn't a policy, this is a practice.
Right.
But I obviously will take feedback from board members and community members around things that are happening, and I take that into consideration.
any other questions? Seeing none, we have a motion in the second. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Okay. Motion to approve the 23-24 athletic handbook. Could I have a motion, please? And a second?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
And I don't mean this to sound nitpicky, so part of it's understanding. This is the only, other than the emergency plan, it's the only document I saw. So the school song, do we ever sing that?
So
I don't
we,
remember singing it.
so
We do
we,
now.
we now have a music program, if you recall, and they have brought the song back, and they do sing it. We sing it at assemblies, and they've sung it at some.
Yes, we do, okay.
Yep.
It seems to make sense if we're gonna have it, and it's a tradition, we should probably use it. I think that's great. It was super cool to see that in there. I don't remember singing it in school. I left 30 years ago. How long ago was it for you? 55 years, okay.
I have a side question, not directly involved, but a little bit with the music program. It's been a long time since I was in high school too, and I didn't grow up here, military. Do we have a band?
We have a band. It's been pretty small, but we have a number of freshmen coming up that are in the band at the middle school. So it's growing every year. That's what happens when you take a program out for a period of time. It's rebuilding when it comes back because we didn't have students that were used to being in the band.
I'd love to see a pep band at the football games.
So we had it a couple of times last year at the football game and at the basketball game. So yes, thank you, Mr. Hamalainen, have a band in the formation, yes.
I have a couple
I know
more
you have-
questions
go
here.
ahead,
I'm
Brad.
Sorry, I don't mean to belabor this. Looking at the standards for athletes, basically what they have to do. I remember sports being different. You didn't attend practices, you didn't attend events, you didn't stay on the team. Coach booted you. Children only have to do 50% of the, as it states here, let's just say football. Participate 50% or more of the varsity scheduled competitions or make a meaningful contribution to the team. The meaningful contribution is probably very subjective, but participation is very objective. Why do we have a standard that's so low? We have a tardiness rate, a truancy rate that we find unacceptable, but we built that rate into our standards. Is that something is that new? I don't think I read this last time I was on the board, so.
No, we haven't seen this in a while, and I actually read that and was like, I think that's for lettering. But the letter, but, because my philosophy is you're there, you participate.
Being
So
sick
you
or
don't-
I
injured.
might have information on that. So, because my kids are heavily involved in sports, especially football. So sometimes there have been kids that got concussions, they can't play the rest of the season, but they're at the practices, they're at the game.
That makes sense, but I would wonder,
I think
could
so.
I just use that as, if I was on the team, couldn't I just say, no, I was there 50% of the time?
I think that would almost come down to the coach's discretion.
That's,
with it.
I kind of read it the same way and thought to myself, like, there are kids that either are sick or get hurt that aren't able to finish the season on the field,
That I get.
but they're still involved. And I think the goal of this is not to like, not
Punish
to,
them for
yeah,
injury.
not to make them ineligible. And then it would be obviously up to the coach's discretion, because kids that fall into the category that you're describing,
Yeah, that.
I would think would just get
that'd be
kicked
only
off the
concern
team
is just
entirely.
the-
They wouldn't have the option to finish the season.
The lackluster ones. I'm almost done here, by the way. That it struck me that when we were talking about substance abuse policy for co-extracurricular activities, we have a first offense, and then which means you ultimately can get yourself booted out of the sport. But then if you decide to do another sport that year, you can get back in. That doesn't make sense to me. So if I got booted out of football, the next upcoming sport, I could potentially get back in. I would think that it would be for that academic season, you're done, like you're finished.
We haven't reviewed that in a while, but when we did, it was in. You remember the parties, you probably,
Yes.
yeah, okay. So we knew if
Invited, by the way.
my son got to play more because of the seniors not being able to play. All I remember is we looked at it. If you got you screwed up your one shot. I mean, major screw up. And we know for some of these kids, this is it for them. And we wanted, okay, and I know everything is individual. I haven't read it in a while, but to get them to work so they, we didn't want it to be one and done. Because usually if they're done school too. I mean, there is different things, like if you're selling, you're done. That's against the law. So there is a lot to it, but Pam, maybe you can, because I have not looked at it.
Yeah, so our overall philosophy around drug infractions, even at the policy level, is more about education. So if you do a one and done, then you're not allowing that opportunity for education. So we're looking at how do we educate our students around, the use of drug and alcohol.
Is it at the coach's or leadership's discretion to choose otherwise?
So
Based on
depending,
the
it's
circumstance.
always individualized. So if it's a
I
huge
understand that. I
situation, yeah.
think that makes
It's the admin that usually do that piece. The coach, you know what I mean? And I've seen it in the past where the child screwed up, they did their punishment, and then the coach tries to double duty. And it says it right in the handbooks, we have policies for a reason,
Right.
not to make them be punished again. And I know they do make, sometimes individually, they have to do counseling or they go to a drug awareness, just like we do now with the smoking policy. It's not, used to be 3 days automatically.
Right.
And then we tried to get the education piece, which I assume we still have something, because that was a big issue, finding something, because there was none. We could find drugs, but not
I had a sister who decided to light up a cigarette in front of Dan Hart on school property. Needless to say, she got arrested. It was interesting. Anyway, two more things. I'll make them quick. recently, I don't have all the detail, the state of Maine passed a law that limits the disclosure that schools have to make to parents related to certain issues in the school around their gender identity, names they choose to be called, how they identify, potentially suicidal ideation, whether that's communicated to parents. I'm not going to rail on about that, but I would say I find it interesting in this handbook that we need parental permission for them to participate in sports. But we don't have to talk about the very meaningful things with our kids. I say I'm not going to belabor that because we're not going to solve that tonight, but I wanted on the record that I find that this document, and I would imagine the others that I didn't read, are full of the same kinds of things where we need parental permission. But we don't have to communicate with parents about the very meaningful things. That's an issue. The last thing I would say is really around, and I think we're going to have this discussion at another meeting, or we talked last night. We have a chain of communication and there's a chain of command in the school. And we have, I'm not busting on you, Pam, but you're playing double duty. If you say, someone needs to talk to the head coach if there's an issue, and then it goes to the athletic director, and then it goes to the building principal, and let's say that building principal is Pam, who's the high school principal. And then if there's a disagreement, it goes to the superintendent. We have an impossible situation here, which also extends to staff. And now in talking to Barb last night, it sounds like there's some protocol that maybe we're not aware of, and fair to say we'll discuss it at the next meeting. Barb, I don't know if you made that decision.
We actually discussed it actually at the training a little bit.
Okay.
So,
And I wasn't here for that. But that I take issue with those last two things. The one that I think we can truly address is the chain of command and how that's worked. So I would leave it at that.
yeah, we did discuss, and it's contractual. Some you mentioned, how we, if there's a complaint against the superintendent, it goes to the board. If there's a complaint against the principal, it goes to the board because she is the superintendent. So
Yeah, I
you
think that's what
bypass.
solves it, right? Is
Yes.
that if you rather you jump it because there's one level missing, basically.
Since we're addressing this
Yeah.
a bit now, I would say, and I don't know, Pam, what you've heard, or Barb, what you've heard, or any other board members, but my last time on the board, there was a lot of teachers who expressed concern about the chain of command. I would imagine part of it really is a lack of understanding about what the policy is and how it's to be addressed. I would add that maybe there's an intimidation level that comes along with talking to the board about an issue. Because I don't know. I mean, I'm certainly not popular among the teachers, and that's okay. So I think that might be a barrier for teachers to try to resolve problems. At a minimum, I think what we need to do is we really need to make sure that teachers, if we haven't already, fully aware of the process, be open to listening to feedback about their nerves around it, because there are nerves. I would imagine, Pam, you probably hear things, and I'm sure you're dealing with it, but I think it's one of those, they're like red flags that we really need to pay attention to.
Well, the other thing is, that's what their union's for. And that's what we try, and you'd be surprised how many staff do not even know their own contract. And we always say, even I say, if an employee calls contract, you're a union, and that's what the complaint officer's for, and that's what the president's for. And that has been a very good
I think
process.
that's fair.
There's a very specific grievance process. So
Yeah.
Brad, as you come on to negotiations, or anyone that has questions around that, the contracts are all public. So definitely read through that, because I know when I joined negotiations, I wasn't very familiar with some of that language and what was around there for employee rights. So I think
I do it with the town when I was on the
Yeah.
select board. So yeah, no, I
Yeah.
get it.
What,
But it's always helpful to shed some sunlight on things.
what is the, sorry, my brain just went blank. What is the union that they're part of?
Well, we have one union, Maine Education
Dear-
Association. Oh, sorry, the Maine Education It's a Dare sorry.
Local
Yes,
association is
and there's
Dare
only the food service is Ask Me. They are a separate union.
And who's head of the DEA?
D is still Heidi.
Heidi.
Heidi and Jay, what's Jay's last name?
Nicholson.
Nicholson is the complaint officer. And they're pretty up on things. They pretty much, I hear from them and Pam hears from them. And it started a little shaky when we became a new RSU, but it's really come because they were new too. It's very difficult because it is a lot of information. So any other questions about the student handbook? Athletic book? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, abstained? Okay. All right, motion to approve the 23-24 DES emergency plan. And Pam, I'll do it before you do. Can I have a motion, please? So move. And a second? Second. Can you explain what they are, since we have a lot of new?
Yep, so we're an Alice district, so that's alert, lockdown, inform, counter, evacuate. There's specific trainings that we do with the staff every year. And we have an emergency plan. The ones that you saw are confidential. They don't go beyond the board other than to the emergency personnel. It lists who they go to. Parents and teachers get condensed versions of it because there's a lot of names and numbers and information in the ones that you see. But each plan talks about like what we would do if there was a violent incident or somebody shooting in our schools, what we do during fire, what we do during an emergency, what we do during like if we had to do shelter in place. That's for if there was like a gas leak out front and we had to keep the kids inside because they couldn't go out. So all of the different, we try to do as many different possibilities as we can and have a plan already in place for how we would react to that. So the things in here that you see that other people might not see is like where we're all going to be or something like that, because we don't want to, if there's a potential shooter following us from one place to another. So we do have different levels of information for different groups, and you being the board see the big overall picture. So you have all of the information. And I will say in advance that Charlie, Jason, and I worked on these together. So we updated telephone numbers, people on the tree that came and went. No real big changes in this plan, other than just in each of them where we're, people's telephone numbers and who's the Congregational Church on the Hill. We've had the same person there for a long time, and I guess he's been gone. So we got that updated with who the real contact person is. So those kind of things we try to do each year during our summer work together. So other than that, they're the same plans that we've had that were vetted through Alice, because we upload them to them and they look at them, and they go to the sheriff, the fire station, and they look at them as well.
Okay, any questions on this? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Very good. Motion to approve the Darrell Middle School emergency plan. Could I have a motion? And a second?
A second.
Comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you. Motion to approve the 23-24 Darrell High School emergency plan. Could I have a motion, please? And a second?
A second.
Comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you. Okay, in our packet, and I gotta find it, we have a motion to approve the bid on the bus note verbatim per sheet provided, because you usually gotta say, oh, that was weird.
Mary had.
And while we're looking for it, Mary, will you explain it, please?
So we had approval to purchase a new bus from the state. And then in May at the budget meeting, we received approval from the voters to do a 3-year note for up to $132,750 for the school bus. So then the process goes that once Kenny tells me when the bus is supposed to be available, I send invitations to bid to the banks and they send back their bids. I sent the invitation to 14 banks and we received 4 back. They range from 4.75% to 6.35%. The low bid was Partners Bank at 4.75%. They're out of Sanford. But their bid specified that we would have to open and maintain a deposit relationship with them for the term of the loan. So it is in the board's right to not accept that bid, even though that is the lowest bid. And personally, I think would be a little inconvenient to have a banking relationship with a bank in Sanford.
How much money though?
How much money would we have to deposit, or they didn't specify?
They did not specify.
The administrative side of it, I don't know, you guys gotta say something, but if we're gonna get a rate that's gonna be essentially 2% less, and we've got to keep $25 on deposit, I don't think it's that. It's probably they're gonna try to get us for a lot more. I would think that'd be worth managing as opposed to spending the additional percentage. So is it, I would say, and I don't know if I need to make a motion for this part, but I would say, wouldn't we want to know that before we finalize that vote?
Yes, Mary has a little more information, so that might answer some of those.
Well, I don't have the information about what they require because often it means that they want all of your business. But the next lowest is Androscoggin Bank at 5.74. First National was 5.82 and Bangor Savings at 6.35.
So what was the 4.5?
4.75 was Partners Bank.
75,
So there's one big difference between that and the next lowest, right?
yeah.
Do I put somebody on the spot? Do we have any idea what that represents? Who represents dollar amount wise? The
Yes.
difference? Oh, you do, okay.
So the total interest for Partners Bank at 4.75 would be $7,422. And Androscoggin at 5.74 is $8,955 over the course of the 3 years.
I'm not sure it's worth the BS.
And the state reimburses 2/3 of that, any?
Basically, because it comes through our subsidy.
I don't think it'd be
So
worth
it's
the
500.
BS of that.
And I do know sometimes we tried different banks when we first started and it didn't work out well. So, all right, did I I can't remember if no, I didn't get a motion yet because
I'm happy to read it, but do I
Yes.
need to go just the motion, right? Or do I need to specify the Androscoggin at 5.74?
You do need to specify the bank and the percent.
Okay, so I move that the vote entitled "Vote to Authorize Issuance of a $132,750 School Bus Bond" be approved in form presented to this meeting, and that the secretary file an attested copy of said vote with the minutes of this meeting. And noting that the board authorizes the district to move forward with the offer from Androscoggin Bank to purchase the bond of Regional School Unit 56 in the principal amount of $132,750 with an interest rate per annum on the outstanding principal amount thereof equal to 5.74% is accepted and approved.
Second.
Is that enough or do I? have
Let's
to read,
just say et cetera.
et cetera?
okay, etc. I got a motion and a second. Any more comments or questions? Brad did, yes. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, thank you. Oh, turn the page. Okay. I'm gonna have Mr. Long come up.
So it's kind of intimidating to have my first business with the new board to be acknowledging that there's something going on in my building that isn't good enough and I want to change it. But here you go. I'm going to come around with a paper and explain what's been going on regarding our early act club and the change that I would like to make. Sure. It was November of 2019. I attended a meeting at the River Valley Rotary Club. And we discussed a number of things, and one of the ideas was to create an Interact Club. And at the middle school level, that's actually called an Early Act Club. At the time, I felt strongly that I needed to do something to increase community service involvement at the middle school. I included that request as part of the fiscal year 2021 school budget request. It was approved by the board. If you look on the back of this page, kind of in gray, you can see the form that we use. And I have original Early Act Club program request from 02/2020 when it was accepted by the board and put into that budget. Okay, now flip back to the front. My objective coming to you today, after 3 years of information and a chance this summer to reflect on a few things, I would like to focus using what I found to be so far more successful methods to promote and provide community service at the middle level and redirect the stipend funds to engage a greater number of students. So they say that you learn if something works or doesn't after 3 years. I have had 3 years. Here's my report. The original goal was that we would have 15 students participating in at least 10 hours of community service through this Early Act Club that was directly valuable to our community. It never lived up to that. My summary of the outcome is during the first 3 years, we succeeded in expanding the Cougar Den and increased the use of that service. However, the number of students involved fell well short of my goal. And the students with the most interest in being part of a community service club oftentimes were student athletes. And so like their participation was highly irregular. Like you would see a willingness to participate in between the sports seasons and then it would go away again. And the way that the Early Act program is designed, they're supposed to be these like sustained community service projects that really only get off the ground if you stick with it the whole time. And we tried it 3 different ways over the 3 years, and it never became what any of us, either of the advisors or myself or the Rotary Club had hoped we would be able to achieve. So in fiscal year 2021, I put some bullets on what happened that year, same with 21-22, and the same with last year. And, you know, I maintained a commitment to finding a way to make this work because community service is a really important value to me, and it's a value that I want to instill at the middle level. I kind of came to the realization going into last year that I need to do some more things. And some of you are familiar with some of the things that we did. We hosted a Veterans Day luncheon that had students participate in both of the service of the meal as well as the creation of what went into the assembly we had for the whole school. We ran a movie night to raise money for a family that was impacted by a fire last year. We had a number of students who volunteered to put that on. And as some of you have mentioned before in previous meetings, over the last 3 years, we have created and then tweaked and I believe improved what we call our capstone class. And capstone is a service-based learning class that is intended to be, you know, think of it as the 8th grade equivalent of senior project. The students learn basic civics and not just theoretical civics, but like how to call the person at the town and get the thing done. And though that's not necessarily all community service, it's community outreach, it's community interaction, and we have a number of students who go above and beyond. We also have a relationship with the River Valley Healthy Communities Coalition, where at no charge to the district, they run on Thursdays, 8th period for 7th and 8th graders. We call it Positive Cougar Club. And it's kind of like an anti-bullying messaging community service, just supposed to be a club surrounded around the idea of just positivity. So these are some of the other things that I have done or I've been part of doing that has had a lot more success. And I believe that the critical element here is that they happen during the school day. I think that's the critical element. I'm competing against a lot of other things after the bell rings at 2:25. So being honest with myself about my concerns in continuing with the Early Act Club, I reached out to Dave Doogie, who right now is the president of the Rotary. And we had a conversation about maintaining our relationship, but changing our relationship. And taking the student council, we have a new student council advisory that you've approved named Tess Sear. And I've spoken to Tess about this and trying to build a relationship between our student council and the Rotary. Because the student council is part of their mission. We have a constitution for the student council at the middle school. They have to have a community service project every year. And they can work with the Rotary either to ask the Rotary for money to contribute to their project, or as Dave pointed out to me, or the Rotary could say, hey, we've got a community service project we think you should adopt. I think that's going to be a more fruitful relationship with the Rotary Club because the student council exists. Everyone knows what it is. It's been around for a long time. I don't see it going anywhere. And what's happened traditionally is that we use sometimes Wednesday mornings. The student council will meet during LAW time. So it's not totally built into the school day, but it doesn't compete with athletics after school. In making that transition, but already having this position in the budget for the coming year, I would effectively like to try something else out that I think will help a larger number of students. So we had a staff member last year who is no longer with us, who created a volunteer craft club. When you look at the clubs and sports that are offered at the middle level, it's a really cool assortment. Like I'm really proud of what we offer in this district for after school at the middle level. But there's nothing for the artist. That's sort of a group of kid that doesn't have a thing. And I had always kind of in my head, well, we have a drama club. Like there's a place for the artists. They can join the drama club. But what I saw with the creation of the craft club is students were showing up for that. They were really showing up for that. And I have a lot of materials already. Like there's no additional expense for it to run. It ran last year because someone was willing to volunteer. But it was somewhat irregular because it was a voluntary thing. And it wasn't part of our activity fair that we do at the beginning of the year to make it formal. So what I would like your permission to do on a trial basis is to use the funds that had been earmarked for an early act advisor and try having a craft club advisor, because the number of students impacted by the early act position is unacceptable to me. It's taken me a little while to figure out what to do about it. And over the summer, I kind of just came to the realization that I need to stop trying to push something into existence after school. I'm having much more success creating community service engagement with my during the school day activities. So I'm going to double down on those. And, my philosophy with after school activities is that it's really important everyone in middle school finds a place they feel like they fit in. And I see a need for a craft club and a chance to see if it's worth doing. Thank you.
Questions for Jason?
I have a couple thoughts.
Okay, I'm gonna do Tina, then you, Bren.
So with this craft club, would there be like, would you bring guests in to show them different types of crafts? Say someone who quilts or someone who crochets, maybe get involved, some of our older citizens who are really good at those kinds of activities that, the younger generation just isn't involved in anymore. I mean, would that be something that would possibly be considered in this?
I think possibly considered. The reality of my position is that I'm not able to micromanage everything, right? So it'll depend upon the skills and interests of the person that I put into the position. But if that person came to me and said, what are the hoops I have to jump through to have some folks come in here and teach quilting, I would be very excited to support that.
Go ahead, Brad.
It's funny that you're saying that you were nervous to bring an issue to this new board. That doesn't sound like an issue to me. It sounds thoughtful, and I've always known you to be very thoughtful when you present something, and it's the kind of thing that I'd want to see as a board member. Like you're thoughtfully looking at the impact that we're having, and I think it's great. I would certainly wholeheartedly endorse a leader who's trying to make a thoughtful change. And I've these clubs like what Rotary have are very well meaning. But we got to do the work. And if it's not relating to the kids, it's a very old fashioned organization. Not that that's bad necessarily. I'm a fan. But I would wholeheartedly support that decision. So do you need a motion?
I do need a motion.
Are there any more questions before I make a motion?
Well,
I don't want to.
I'll ask
Okay.
later too.
So I make a motion that we support Jason and the moving of these funds to a craft club. Is that what we need for a motion?
Yeah, do I have a
I'll
second?
second.
Questions? I assume you're gonna need a job description and MOA with the union to figure out what they're.
Yep, but it starts here.
And I do agree with Tina, if we could get, because there is a lot of talented
Oh, yeah.
people around this area that really, I think, would enjoy, and that would get your community involved too.
Good point.
I agree. As someone who's been fortunate to work with a group of 4-H kiddos, there is no shortage of volunteers who are very talented and willing to share those talents. So, and a lot of kids actually that are really interested in
Yeah.
learning about it. So I think this is an awesome idea.
I almost think that you as the leader could, to this new person, say, it's an expectation that we attempt to involve the community.
Mhm.
Not just, the kids in here, because I agree with Natalie and my wife is a crap nut, like absolute crap nut. And I think with the senior community who have an incredible number of skills, they're lonely and bored. And I think you could find some very competent people to come in. So I would recommend that it's an expectation that's part of it. I not part of the motion, but just
Yep, sure. No, makes sense.
Any other comments? And I'm not crafty. I have learned from my friends, but I'm not. All right, all those in favor? Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
All right. Old business, we don't have a Region 9 update, but I'm hoping at the next meeting we'll contact them because I really think it would be great to meet all three and have them, what is, we all have a new board. What do they do? What is our expectations? What's theirs? Superintendent's report.
Our schools are in good shape. We're ready to start school next week. Due to a conflict in bar training for the staff at Derigo High School, we did cancel freshman orientation. We will be hosting an open house on Wednesday from the 4 to 6, so people can come in, still meet their teachers, know where their classes are. And offer that up. Our bus fleet was inspected by the state police last week. The state trooper who did the inspection indicated that this is a quote from him to Kenny. This is one of the best fleets in the state. Applaud the board for their forward thinking around keeping our fleet up to date and having safe buses for our students to transport on. As superintendent of RSU56, I did send a letter to the town of Dixfield indicating that the new bus garage is tentatively scheduled for completion in August 2024. This was in response to our current lease with them that indicates that we need to give them prior notice. I did put in their tentative and that I'd give them an update as it was closer to the time. As we move into the 23-24 school year, it's the intent to have the first 3 snow days as sort of traditional snow days. And then after that, I would be assessing the situation depending on whether it's going to be large spread power outages or those sort of things. We would move to remote learning days. I know that remote learning days are not the same as in-school learning days, but we do need to keep in mind that we have to finish school in a timely fashion so that we're in alignment for our seniors graduating. So that date has already been set. So I'd like to be done school no later than June 14th so that we're within that time frame. So I will just be looking at the days after the first 3. I will say that I feel very fortunate as the superintendent of this district that we are almost fully staffed. There are districts around us that are still scrambling and will be scrambling even through the school year as they did last year. We do have currently 1 position at Derigo High School that I failed to put on here, but I'm going to announce tonight that Sonia Arsenal did put in her resignation. So we have 1 kind of last minute position at Derigo Elementary School. Charlie has been beating the bushes and looking around to see if there was anybody that might be available to apply for that. I think it's going to be hard at this point to get anybody, but he has been talking to a very strong ed tech who we have asked the state to see if we could get emergency certification on. And if we can, that will be great. But that person also said they would be willing to do it as long-term sub if they did not get certification. So we do have a backup plan. That does, however, leave Mr. Swan, Dr. Swan, in a position where they have some ed tech openings still at the elementary school. So we'll continue to work on that. And the only other position that's currently open is an ESER 1 year of ed tech at the high school. So overall, we're in really good shape to start the school year. As Ms. Daly goes to the front to get ready for her report, I'm just going to finish with the new hires. We did hire Sheena Holmquist to be a Title I ed tech at the elementary school. Nicholas Chapman is coming on as our Darrigo High School golf coach. And the other retirement that I need to report out is Jennifer Woods, Title I Ed Tech 3 at the elementary school. And I know some of you said, who was that? So it was Sonia Arsenault at the elementary school. She did take the early childhood position at Region 9. So our students at the high school who participate in that program will still have her expertise. But it does, like I said, left us a little bit of a pinch at the last minute. So Dr. Swan has done a good job getting that figured out.
Mary, I have 2 questions for Pam quick. Status of the gym floor being done and our boys soccer coach.
So the gym floor is not currently done. The wood was delivered last Tuesday, so it has been acclimating. The person has been told very clearly by me that I have an assembly on the 31st of August, and I expect to be able to use my gym. Whether that happens or not, I am not convinced at this point. So we may be having a very crowded assembly in the SCC, but so it is not done. It will be done. For those of you who did not know, we have that brand new floor. We ended up having a situation with just as you enter from this end of the gym, when we were taking, it buckled a little bit. So when we were putting our bleachers in and out, it was hitching. So they are fixing it under warranty, but that also means that they have current new paying jobs that are kind of, in my opinion, taking a front seat. So hopefully it is done soon, and we'll be back with our gym, but it is not currently completed.
Do we have a boys soccer coach?
Boys soccer coach currently, Mr. Carvis is coaching boys soccer because we do not have a boys soccer coach. So he's keeping that afloat while we're still looking. He has reached out to a number of athletic directors, and one of them in a relatively close proximity thought they had a few friends that might be interested. So they're going to be calling them and seeing if anybody might want to come in and be the boys soccer coach. So at practices thus far, I have not checked in this week, but I know when we started, we had 6 on day 1 and 7 on day 2 for 8v8 soccer. We were hoping we could convince a few other people to play. So we're trying really hard to keep it going and hoping that we have the people that have showed up are like really good soccer players and athletics. So we can hopefully have a team. We would like to have 12 because you have to have some subs, but well, if we can get 9 or 10, that would be a lot more helpful than 7 or 8.
I have a question on that. What's the policy? I know some schools around us have brought up 8th graders if they really need to. Is that something that's allowed or not?
So I would prefer not to, because they
Okay.
can only play 4 years of high school.
Okay.
That-
All right. I wasn't sure. I just knew that there were some other, like I say, surrounding towns that had done that when they were short.
It's
So I
a
wasn't sure.
short-term fix, but it actually bites you on the other end because they wouldn't be able to play as seniors.
Okay. Yeah. So,
And Mary Daly is here tonight to do this administrative report on central office business.
So I generally report out in January and August and hit the same high points, but with a little bit different spin depending on the time of the year. So the audit for 22-23 was started in June when the auditors came here to do their preliminary work in person. And they'll continue with the audit in October, but they won't be on site at that time. We'll upload all the necessary documents to their secure portal and it'll all be done remote for the October part of it. For an update on COVID funding, SRF 2 has to be completely spent by September 30, 2023. We're in good shape there. And we'll be able to continue to spend the SRF 3 funds until September 30, 2024. And that is the end of those ESSER funds, which I'll be happy about. And last time when I reported out in January, we'd recently signed the contract for the new accounting software from Harris School Solutions. We have Harris AptaFund program that's replacing ADS Pro Fund that I've used for the last 30 years. So this was kind of a hard change, but it was needed because ADS Pro Fund is going to be going away. So Kathy and I started the training process in April, and we spent lots of hours in Zoom meetings with a lovely lady from Texas who was teaching us how to set up and use the new software. She learned some things from us because being from Texas, she didn't know much about Maine State Retirement or other Maine things. And she's actually going to use us kind of as a guinea pig because ADS is being phased out. A lot of schools, I know of 4 kind of in our area that are all moving to AptaFund. So Jeannie's already asked, can I have some of those people call you with questions? So we said yes, that we're happy to help because we had some people that we leaned on, the 2 schools in Maine that had already been using it that we've been asking questions of. So our go live date was July 1, 2023. It's very nerve wracking from April to July when we were trying to get ready, but we managed to get the first payroll out in July and accounts payable. We had to run 2, we meaning Kathy, had to run 2 payrolls for the 4 payrolls in July and August because the teachers and ed techs, because they were being paid off their old contract, had to be paid out of Pro Fund, our old system. And everybody who was hourly was being paid out of the new system. So we were glad to see those 4 payrolls behind us. And as of September 1st, all the employees will be paid strictly through AptaFund. And then we do have student activity accounts at each of the schools that are also tracked through ADS. And that had to become on the back burner because there was so much work involved in just getting payroll going. So I'm working on converting the student activity accounts now, and those will be switched over to the Harris product called AA Web as of January 1, 2024. And the conversion has been quite time consuming and a boatload of work, but overall, I'm happy with the AptaFund program. And I'm hoping that in 3 years, which Jason said, that's how long it takes to figure out if something's going to work or not. Hopefully in 3 years, I will still be standing here saying that I'm very happy with the AptaFund program. Any questions?
Oh, you make it.
I just want to make the comment that Mary downplayed the amount of work that she and Kathy have put into this transition. They have done an incredible job, the hours and hours, like this transition, they were telling us required 40 hours a week training, and they did their regular jobs on top of it. So I just can't say enough about the fact that we did get people paid and we're up and running in AptaFund. So thank you both.
And I will concur that you guys are awesome. Mary, you're a gold mine, and we weren't like Portland and didn't pay our people. So thank you. All right. We are up to, you're all done, right? Pam? Yep. Committee reports. Are we going to have a student rep?
Yes, Diana will be joining us again, but school has not started yet,
Yeah,
so.
okay. Policy committee, will set a meeting, because I think we have a couple we could look at just with talking to, our training. Finance committee, Carl?
Yeah, not to reiterate on what Pam said, but we were very fortunate to have such an experienced, dedicated central office staff that very, very lucky.
Thank you.
One other thing, if any of you have kids or grandkids and they send the paperwork home to be filled out for school, a lot of the state funding formula and everything is hinging on this paperwork. So if you got neighbors, anything personal, anybody you know, make sure they fill out their packet that comes home and back into the school, because I believe last year we missed out on a large percentage of state funding because we didn't have these things filled out and turned in.
Yeah. The
So-
free and reduced, even though everything's paid for, that is all contingent on money from the state.
So if you know
to-
anybody that has some kids in school, ask them, hey, did you fill out your kids' paperwork.
I'll put
I'm
a,
gonna, I'm gonna.
I'll put a plug in as a new middle school parent. Thank you, Mr. Long. We got a really good packet in the mail the other day and it included all the forms that we have to fill out and color coded, stapled together. Thank you. But also, our son as a sixth grader won't be issued a device, won't get a laptop until we submit all those forms back. So I thought that was a good way. It's an incentive.
Thank you. I'm sorry to speak, but it's not my turn. Lisa Sanborn's name needs to be included for that
Yes,
mailing
I
because I didn't
yes,
color code a darn thing.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you very much, Lisa. You're right.
All right, curriculum committee, Jason's the one who sets the time, so he'll get in contact. Yep. Buildings and grounds committee, we don't have a chair yet, but I'll contact Kenny to see what his timeline or what he's interested in. Negotiations, usually we wait till, but we do have homework, and we talked about everybody getting a contract, getting the contracts, copies. And usually the union will send us an intent to negotiate, which we have to answer in 10 days. And it is, like the guy said, there is a lot of prep. I mean, reading the contract, finding out what's the issues. And I'm a firm believer when you read a contract and you don't understand what it says, then the wording isn't very good. That happens sometimes. Personnel, Natalie.
So we don't have a meeting scheduled at this point, but I think we just approved the formation of a new club. So we'll certainly have a job description to look over and probably will be good to get our new group together just to meet to talk about what we're gonna do and kind of how we're gonna do it a little bit. So we'll set a meeting. I'll send an email out to those that
Yes,
want
okay.
expressed interest and see what availability looks like.
Okay. Ad hoc, Jason will get to us when the. Yep. All right, thank you. Board member comments.
Yes,
Go ahead.
it's gonna sound weird, but I went to the bathroom before I came into the meeting, men's room down here. And it is about the shiniest, cleanest men's room I've ever seen in a school. And I think about those things, believe it or not, as an operations guy, and it's unbelievable. Like, we've all been in some bathrooms in schools and they're generally beat up and horrifying. And that thing glows.
I second that.
So kudos to our janitorial team, who probably don't get recognized enough.
It's beautiful.
Thank you for making the floor shiny and the walls. I mean, I can see all the way to the top. And those are even washed. It's crazy. So anyway.
We do have a good crew and they rule the roost sometime, then that's what they're. Yes, they're awesome. As far as with the boosters, I couldn't, just outstanding with them. Any other board member comments? All right. Oh, you have one? No, Liz?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a quick comment. It was about a few meetings ago at the end of school when I had asked for consideration of a rating system for books in the library. And I just wanted to qualify that by saying that I was not targeting any particular group of population, that I was more concerned with all of the students and what was appropriate for their grade level, their maturity, and what their parents were interested in having them be exposed to, but it had nothing to do with any particular population. And I know I got a thing from the ACLU, which we all got a copy, but it was directed to me because I was the one that brought it up. And the American Library Association and the Maine State Library Association or whatever it is. But anyways, I just wanted to clarify that so that nobody thought I was trying to pick on a particular group. I speak for generally all children. And that's where I was coming from. I just wanted to qualify that. So that everybody understood where I was coming from.
Okay.
I'd like to comment.
Wait, Tina, did you have a comment or you're just moving it? Okay, go ahead, Brad.
I would imagine over this term, some controversial things that are going to come up. And I was fortunate my last term, as much as anybody remembers, how I railed against some of the decisions around COVID, how we handled certain things. I was never targeted by any group, and I certainly would respond if I was. These groups like to bully people who speak up, and I wanted on the record that no board member should feel bullied. I think that I think everybody in here is thoughtful, whether I agree with them or not. I think we all want the same things. We want our parents' rights to be recognized. We want our children protected. And I think we can all argue probably differently about how that's to be done. But I would say it would not be fair to any board member who, out of deep concern, expresses an opinion to receive letters like Liz, making assumptions about what they do and do not believe. So I would hope that none of us would experience that ongoing. So.
Any other board member comments? Kathleen?
I thank you, Liz, for speaking up with something that is a concern for other schools. And we've seen it. I've knocked on a lot of doors and I've heard that same concern. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. And this is still the United States of America, and we still have freedom of expression. So thank you.
All right, any other comments? Seeing none, executive session, we have none. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.